When it comes to the other two planes, one of them was later assigned to Pentagon, and the other one was, as you say, that Flight 93. I think these two planes were genuinely shut down by the US government in panic, which followed the September 11. I have no proof of it, of course, but it looks like.
Well, the only evidence we've got is in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, where United Airlines Flight 93 crashed, so we're told, at 10:06 on that morning.
The last hero wasn't found on the ground, but rather in the air of United Airlines Flight 93. Before the plane crashed in Pennsylvania, passenger Jeremy Glick told his wife by cell phone that he and his fellow passengers had a plan to resist the terrorists by possibly tackling them. He knew there was a good chance he would die trying. Before the plane went down, he told his wife to have a good life and take care of their 3-month-old baby girl. In the end, United Airlines Flight 93 was the only hijacked plane that day not to hit a major target. Jeremy Glick, a hero who would not live to hear himself praised.
But there are also recordings of conversations between passengers and people on the ground during the course of the end of that flight.
Look, this was just a kind of fake evidence produced later to cover up the story. First of all, you have to understand that the mobile phone tower, the center of the mobile cell, cannot transmit the signal over 2 kilometers. So when you switch on your mobile phone, it will connect itself to the nearest tower within maximum 2 kilometers distance. So once a plane is flying at the altitude of, let's say, 8 kilometers, it's simply too far to reach any tower. It's more than 2 kilometers, 4 times as much. It's just not possible to connect your mobile phone to any ground tower. So it's just technically impossible. Any communication engineer will tell you that.
Dimitri, in the case of United Airlines Flight 93, crashed in a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. There were no engines, there's no tailplane, and when the coroner examined the scene, he said after 20 minutes there stopped being a coroner because there wasn't a body and there was no blood. Later reports are that part of the wreckage landed 3 miles away. How do you explain that?
First of all, I would like to stress that a main purpose of my book was not to explain about the planes or to disprove the planes or no plane theory. The main point of my book was that I used to serve in certain department of the Soviet military which knew about existence of the nuclear demolition scheme of World Trade Center.
Yes.
That is why my primary point was to explain this to public. But when it comes to the planes, it was just like a secondary thing which I was obliged to research just to complete the book. It was not the main point.
Understood.
That is why when it comes to the World Trade Center demolition, I knew it for sure, because I really know it. Yes. I knew it from my former service, and I know how to explain the mechanics of the demolition. But when it comes to planes, I was obliged to use publicly available sources. So my opinion is just my private opinion.
Well, you express it in the book, why not express it?
Yes. Okay, so the point is like this. When plane falls down in result of anything, it usually falls down as a whole piece. So it should hit the ground as a whole piece and disintegrate while on the ground.
Yes.
If the plane was disintegrated in the air, that means something caused its disintegration there. It should be either a big explosion, which tear plane apart, or we also can presume that the plane was shot with the cannons, because the cannon is rapid firing. And it might cut for example, the wing, or another wing, the tail, and the plane will just be disintegrated in the air. So the pattern of the plane collapse in the case of the Flight 93 suggests that the plane was shot down, and not by the missile, by the cannon.
Why not the missile?
Because you know that all modern missiles and all modern planes have so-called IFF identification, friend or foe. So whenever plane flies, it always transmits the signal, I am a friend, I am a friend, I am a friend. And no guided missile can lock on such a plane because it's own plane. So it's just technically impossible as a means of protection. So in order to shoot your own plane, you cannot use your own missile. You can only use cannon. And you know, if you read carefully all publicly available sources in regard to that September 11 events, especially in connection with the Flight 93, you will find some strange thing. One of the American interceptors, I mean the fighter's plane of the US Air Force sent to intercept hijacked planes, came back with entire cannon munition spent. And nobody can explain why they managed to spend the cannon munitions.
It wasn't on an exercise or anything like that.
They claim it was an exercise, but look, who will believe that that exercise took place in the middle of September 11 events, when all the flights were restricted, and all fighter planes were sent just to ground or to intercept the hijacked planes, and nobody would conduct such an exercise in the middle of these events. It's ridiculous.
Or the people who attacked the United States in New York, shot down the plane over Pennsylvania, 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 shot down the plane over Pennsylvania.